really quick. And I don't want to get to 1,000. It's been a very busy day when it comes to find Richard Halliday. We doing a lot of research behind the scenes because of all of the newly revealed information that we have gotten, not just information, but also proof. We had the this is a very, very big deal. We had the notary public from El Paso call us and share information with us. It's 10 o'clock. Can you believe it? 10 o'clock. Let the bell toll. Yeah. So we did have a very brave person give us a call and let us know that he indeed notarized the CID, the complaint, the FBI complaint. Okay, so it's a complaint that was put into the CID and then pushed forward to the FBI. The FBI accepted it and they gave it a number. So there's two different files, one in the CID and one in the FBI. And that all started with this notary on the 22nd. Hold on to your seats. The 22nd of July 2020, a day before Richard went missing. So where's Richard, right? I mean, we should have Richard. Where is the urgency when there are these kind of complaints? Either the complaints were right and they would need to take action, and that action would have everybody would know about it. Everyone would know about the action, would be all over the news because it involves child sex trafficking, child pornography, the marketing of it, the distribution of it. They and I've already did some checks. Did you know that there's airdropping going on of pornography to our children in schools all across the country? This is unacceptable. This is just unheard of in the past because of the technology that we have today, but also because of the spirit of our country. We are going down the wrong path. The path always leads through that Vanity Fair, right? That Vanity Fair with all the games. And they're all these, at first it looks fun. It looks like it's not going to hurt us. Or it looks lucrative. It's very lucrative. We make money. We can do some betting. We can make quick cash. Or we don't think it's going to hurt so bad. We know it might hurt a little bit, but it seems worth it. And so we just participated in this Vanity Fair as a country, and at the highest levels. And that's the problem, because the highest levels that are supposed to be the oversights, the ones that check and balance, the ones that care for us and defend us, and have our six, have participated in this Vanity Fair. And so I want to share with you absolutely what happened today, which was absolutely mind-blowing. And so I just have to share it with you because you see the politicalization of our military has taken place. We know that. And today I found out even in Richard's case, it got political. And so I think there's a huge problem that we have to face. And today we had Representative Gates, um, he faced it. And he has to be one of the bravest men I've ever heard right now. Now, I hope it's more than just rhetoric. I hope that they go through with it. So let's take a look. Let's take a listen. Let me play it for you. And then maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. But here he is.
Records unlawfully compromised by the United States
I don't know why my computer always does that. It's like a safety.
Air Force.
Thank you for that question. So we did have a PI.
Records unlawfully compromised by the United States Air Force.
Okay, so real quick, these are records, compromised records in the Air Force. This is what he is asking this flag officer. She's a 3-star.
Thank you for that question. So we did have a PII breach, 11 individuals overall. Their data was released.
Well, you say breach. When I hear breach, what I hear is that like someone hacked or broke in or got the information. You gave this information.
Yes, we did. No,
right.
the Air
So
Force
it wasn't a breach. It was an illegal release.
It was yes, it was.
Right.
You're right. We take full responsibility
How many?
for that. 11.
11.
Yes.
And all Republicans, right?
I don't know the answer to that. I know some of them were, but I think that.
But if I represent you, that it's all or almost all Republicans.
Almost all Republicans. That's correct. Yes.
And this information was given to the due diligence entity, right?
There was an entity. Yes, it was.
Yeah, and it's an opposition research entity that gets hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee and the Democratic Senatorial campaign apparatus, right?
I don't know that much about due diligence, but I know that we released the information inappropriately.
Why did you do that?
It was an error. We did an investigation as soon as we found out. We notified all of the members in which their data was released. We have put in place multiple layers of checks and balances. We did a retraining.
Who's been fired for doing this?
We have taken the appropriate action.
Okay. Who's been fired?
We've taken the appropriate action.
It's a fascinating answer, just not to my question. Who's been fired?
I can't answer that.
Has a single person been fired?
I do not know the answer to that.
Shouldn't you, though? I mean, here we are having recruiting challenges.
3 stars.
You guys are releasing personnel information of predominantly Republicans to a Democrat opposition research firm. You run personnel for the United States Air Force, and you can't tell me whether anyone has been fired for this unauthorized release?
Congressman, I can tell you that we have taken the appropriate action.
Well, but you deem it appropriate. But what if we don't? Because we have civilian control of the military. Mm-hmm. We may have to change our laws to hold people accountable. And pardon me for not trusting your vague reference to the layers that you've put on. But, Mr. Chairman, I request that this committee get specific answers for what the accountability regime was for this unlawful action by the United States Air Force, and that we not take as an article of faith the representation that they think they've taken the appropriate action. They've taken the illegal, inappropriate action to compromise these records, and I think we should.
Wowzer. Absolutely wowzer. And so this is very good for our country if he goes through with this, if he starts holding these traitors accountable, because they are traitors. And I think as a 3-star general, she should have absolutely knew what the accountability was, because they had no problem. Well, I don't know if I should get into it, what they did to Richard. They are all about waterless waterboarding. They are all about retaliation against those that are not lockstepping. I'm not talking about obeying orders. I'm talking about lockstepping to a lot of evil. You have to remember, our military just put us through crimes against humanity. They've committed crimes against humanity, and that's only the tip of the iceberg. And after all of that, it's just like with Richard. You see, there was Vanessa Guillen and then the other soldier, Enrique Roman Martinez, and Austin Hawke, and Elder Fernandez, and Asia Graham, and Caleb Smither, and Gregory Morales. You know, you have all of this happening, and Richard goes missing, and there's no urgency. You have 3 of them being beheaded: Vanessa Guillen, Enrique Roman Martinez, and Austin Hawke. You can, whatever, they were holding on Austin Hawke's head, okay? And then they plea dealed. Enrique Roman Martinez's head washed ashore, hair pulled out, eyes gouged out. They put him in cold case. We don't have the murderer of Enrique. Vanessa Guillen, they did everything in their power, even send Texas Equisearch home after they found the melted, burnt up Pelican case that her bludgeoned and dead body was contorted to fit in so they could take it out to the Leon River and chop it up. How did it get in the trunk? But Pelican case, military trunk. But they chopped it up and burnt it and put it in a foxhole and poured lime on it, poured concrete, and then when Texas Equisearch was getting so close and found the Pelican case, the CID called the search off. It was by the grace of God that animals were digging around it, and linemen saw those, workers saw these animals digging around this area, and they were curious. That's how she was found. Not by generals absolutely clicking heels together to the CID, by whoever the law enforcement officials are that could have oversight over Fort Hood to click heels together. The call of all of whoever was able to comb that area, to have the back of Vanessa, to care about her, to defend her, to want to find her. See, there was no urgency with Richard. Even after all of that, they still didn't learn their lesson. And here you have, they want to call it a breach. No, it's not a breach. This is an unlawful release of people's private files. It's like with Richard. The unlawful release, the unlawful taking, leaking, they call it a leak. That doesn't sound as bad as taking Richard's file and using it, reading through it, combing through it. We don't get his file, and we love him, and we want to find, we have good intentions. They didn't have, Tavita Nusa did not have good intentions when he took Richard's files and he illegally released them to Leilani Hart to be up to no good with them. Now, maybe she had a case. But she had no right to take Richard's files from someone she knew very, very intimately, Tavita Nusa, and use them for her purposes. And, maybe this is God's grace, like the animals that found Vanessa. Maybe this is God's grace of alerting those workers that saw the animals that found Vanessa, to alert all of us that care about our military, that care about our defense, that care about our service members. You see, what's happening is leaders in the highest positions have no interest in the defense of this country, in the care of the land or the people. They're polluting it and polluting it and polluting it with all of their evil. And today, even, I just got a little word that the law enforcement the man in charge of the law enforcement of the border there at Fort Bliss. I'll get smarter and smarter as I go, right? I'll get smarter and smarter and learn all of this law enforcement, because we've been deserted. We've been left alone to do this investigation, to figure things out, because the likes of Gregory McDonald, that is in charge of the border there, or what is this other guy's name? Bill Hicks, who is the one that really has power over Richard's case. That, they always act out how they care, yet they desert. Has he called us? Has he offered anything? Could he be bothered to do his job in the case of Find Richard Halliday? We haven't heard anything. Let us know. Has he ever mentioned anything like, where's Richard? Like, where's Richard? I have a t-shirt now, where's Richard? Let me see if I have it up. That I'll share with you. Here it is. Where's Richard? So I'm going to try to get these made, get them up very quickly here before this thousand day, because this is what we wrote to Senator Cruz. I think it's better if I just read it, because a lot of thought went into it. Dear Senator Cruz, today is 979 days since Richard vanished from his barracks room on Fort Bliss. We were so pleased that you found passion to rightly express moral outrage at U.S. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas over the border issues, which are crimes, and the 20,000 unaccounted for children from the emergency intake center on Fort Bliss. He should resign. We are praying you will also have the moral fortitude and outrage over the Western Texas District AG, Jaime Esparza. You approved him. Greg McDonald, the chief of border crimes, and Bill Hicks, who also should be held accountable. Furthermore, they couldn't be bothered with the Richard Halliday case. They couldn't even take the time to acknowledge the first CONUS Deaths One missing soldier under the new Vanessa Guillen absent soldier flowchart. They couldn't even offer this distinguished honor graduate's family the assistance program available, since everyone knows we have been betrayed, deserted, and tasked to alone bring the CID and FBI leads. We have brought them many leads, including notarized CID and FBI numbered files. And I should have added this, and Rob should have reminded me on this. We have been put in harm's way. We have been put in harm's way by these law enforcement agents, these law enforcement officers, these law enforcement public servants. They are public servants. It's their job to care for us, to notify us, to inform us, to help us with all the tools that we have given them, with all the funds we have given them, with all the prayers and good wishes and respect we have given them, with all of their staffs and their beautiful buildings and all of their safety and security. We've paid for their security, their comfort, so that they would be able to serve us better. I should have written all that in there. Team Fine Richard Halliday requests that Senator Cruz's staff, because they're very good, okay? This is a very good staff. They wrote that letter. Remember when they wrote that letter to the Secretary of the Army? And it was an amazing letter. I mean, 1 to 10, it was an 11, right? They do excellent work. Of course, the Secretary of the Army, Christine Warmouth, I'm sorry, I call her Warmouth, flipped him off. She flipped him off. She's his subordinate by 23 ranks, and she flipped him off, and he had no recourse because he's been left defenseless, and she's the Secretary of the Army. But no respect for the Constitution, no respect for our hierarchy of government, our oversight. You could get mad at Representative Matt Gaetz for what he did. But that's his job. That is exactly his job, to have oversight into our $1 trillion military. We respect the Air Force, but we don't respect bad leadership that allows politics to get into the way and releasing Republicans' information to people that are up to no good. It's an illegal release. So absolutely, Representative Matt Gaetz did his job. And I have also been criticized, but I'm doing the job of a mother. I want to know where my son is. Where is Richard? They say, get us leads. Okay, however you want my help. You want my help? I want to find my son. Get us leads. Get us leads. Get us leads. I don't know how many live streams that prove that over and over again, they told us to bring them leads. Supply the leads. They essentially made us the investigators. They essentially made us the CID and the FBI. We don't have the training. It's taken us a long time to try to get all this stuff together, which has put us in harm's way. And if Richard was alive in all of that, put him in harm's way. Now, we believe that he was murdered. I will say that to you. But they have definitely put us in harm's way. So I'll finish up. Team Fine Richard Halliday requests that Senator Cruz's staff, your staff, arrange a CID Army-wide joint training exercise to be held at Fort Bliss as soon as possible to investigate the whereabouts of whistleblower Richard Halliday. Stop child abuse. See, what Richard did and these terrible 20,000 unaccounted for children from the Fort Bliss Emergency Intake Center. They go hand in hand. So to have this Army-wide joint training exercise to be held at Fort Bliss is right on the money. We are approaching 1,000 days. This is ridiculous. Absolutely. For our $1,000, our $1 trillion military to take 1,000 days to find Richard. It's unacceptable. And as citizens of this country, we have the duty, just like Representative Gates, just like Rob and I, to call out as parents to take care and to defend and to look, to search for our son when we absolutely have proof over and over and over again that they had it out for Richard. He was a whistleblower. They didn't protect him. They didn't listen to him. They don't care about the children. We know they don't care about the children because there's 20,000 from right there at Fort Bliss, 20,000 unaccounted for children from their emergency intake center. So, they have failed. They have betrayed us. And I call it treason. And that's why, I'll finish this up. How can the military be expected to secure, care, and defend the United States of America when they can't even secure, care, and defend children and our military on Fort Bliss in border city El Paso, Texas? Now, this is more than negligence. This is more than a dereliction. It has been crickets. They haven't even used the media. Every one of those generals can call the media. They have the media on their cell phone. They have it with their PAO. They can get the media like this, and they can say, "Where is Richard?" But so can AG, the Attorney General, Jaime, I hope I'm saying his name right, Esparza, Greg McDonald. He's the chief of border crimes. Why hasn't he reached out? And Bill Hicks, he has so much control over our son's case. Why hasn't he reached out? And that's why we're asking for those 1,000 letters for the Inspector General. Let me show that to you. Let's see if it's down here. Yeah, here it is. So, to the Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, here is the address. I'm going to post it everywhere. I've posted it everywhere. Write a letter to say you need to inspect the investigation there at Fort Bliss of Richard Halliday, because where is Richard? Why haven't they used the media? Why haven't they used the task force? The task force didn't even have an op board. That's treason. The release of this information, this file, the weaponization of our liaison, the weaponization of the senior leader to the military police to conduct a smear campaign on Richard that was groundless. The withholding of information from us when they knew on the 22nd of July, the day before Richard vanished, 2020, that things were not good. And I even have more information here that I will send you. There have been El Paso police complaints made. So because there was not an op ord and the El Paso police were there at the Task Force Find Richard Halliday meeting, and yet there was no operational order to work with the El Paso Police Department, my husband called them, Rob called them, and they said, "Sir, we haven't gotten one call or request since you left," because we were calling them. Yeah, I jotted some things down because there have been complaints made to the El Paso Police Department. Not only the El Paso Police Department, but separate complaints to the CID in early 2022. The CID didn't care. Even though these complaints were about Tavita Nusa and Leilani Hart. So they need to answer if this is true, the information that I just received. That Tavita Nusa and Leilani Hart were being complained about to the CID in early 2022. And they already knew he lost his badge. And they already knew about the leaked files. They already knew about the leaked files really early on because those leaked files were being used to create CID complaint files that were being notarized. I mean, they have a lot of explaining to do. And I might not have everything right because I'm not a CID agent. I'm not an FBI agent. I'm not an attorney general or in charge of the border. I don't have the fancy secured offices with the staffs. I don't have any of that. I'm just a mom. I'm not even Bill Hicks. I haven't been to law school. I don't sit in fancy places with fancy people that I can just call on the phone and say, "Hey, El Paso Police Department, get me that file. Hey, CID, get me that file. I want it." Or I want to go right in there. I have my little essential badge or whatever, and I'm walking right in. I don't have that. So if you have information that can clarify this, what I'm about to tell you, then please call 941-677-0060. Because I've been told the El Paso Police Department and the CID received a complaint, and there's other complaints about Leilani Hart and Tavita Nusa because it was an affair going on. And he was happy, and he gave her access to CID. He gave her access to CID. And she was up to no good, y'all. And I think James Hart had to watch his back. I think he was having to watch his back because she was up to no good. So if you are Leilani Hart, please call because there's some very damaging information going around. And, to have control of the CID, to get leaked files, to submit complaints and have them approved and have them, flow on through to the FBI and get them rubber stamped by the FBI with a number and everything like that. I mean, absolutely stamped by a notary. Yeah, that is, today I have so much information I had to write it down because and I'm not even giving it all. It's that much information because I didn't even get to the law. The law that gives us the right to, as parents, especially since Richard, at this point, you can make a very good argument that he is presumed dead. Now, I don't want that. It's a nightmare because let me tell you, we have been bullied, we have been harassed, we have been threatened, we have been not only us, but our family members. Team Find Richard Halliday. Don't forget, Corinne went behind the scenes and she harassed. I got complaints when she was harassing Team Find Richard Halliday early on to sabotage Find Richard Halliday and more. And we were getting harassed so bad that we had to figure out a way to trace it. Because of course, when you are getting harassed with vile and vulgar threats and intimidation and just awful things, when you're just trying to find your son, you think it's suspicious. I mean, of course you think it's suspicious. We're talking about a missing soldier. We're talking about the very first CONUS DES 1 missing soldier under the new Vanessa Guillen absent soldier flow chart. I mean, we have urgency after learning about Austin Hawk and Enrique and Caleb Smither and Vanessa and all of the other service members that are being hurt, along with the 20,000 unaccompanied children from Fort Bliss Emergency Intake Center. We can't trust our military the way it is right now to do their duty in defending the United States of America, caring for our soldiers, doing things right, evenly, just. We can't trust them. These layers, oh, well, it has been handled. It has been. No, we don't trust you because we have so many overdoses, so many rapes. When every program is a failed program, how can we trust our military? And so we have here. I mean, I'm not the only one. We have here. Listen to this man. Let me turn this on.
Not only do I believe that you should have resigned
This is Representative
as a
Mills.
result of this continuation and this path, but I myself perceive this as dereliction of duty, and I take that very seriously, especially for our armed service members and those who are looking for accountability as a result of this botched withdrawal. Based on my perception and having conducted these operations and seeing how political optics was placed above the true military strategy, where we should have held Bagram Air Base, held the detention center, had a conducted withdrawal as the way it was supposed to, not shut down and entrap Americans by taking over HKI, the commercial airspace, and abandoning thousands of Americans, not to mention our SIV and the friends of those who have fought beside us proudly and honorably, who are being methodically and systematically murdered now, who trusted the American people for 20 plus years, and the increase in suicide rates of American soldiers who spiked over 25 after this failed withdrawal as a result of them feeling as if they had failed. That is why Secretary Austin, and based on further hearings and investigations, I've already drafted my articles of impeachment for the dereliction of duty. I do feel there needs to be accountability at the top and at the highest levels. And I hope that we can get true accountability with future hearings and investigations and your testimonies that would actually either substantiate or discredit my beliefs. With that, I yield back.
Gentleman's time's expired. Gentleman from Texas, Mr. VC is recognized for 5.
Yeah, so he's calling for the Secretary of Defense, Austin, for his resignation. Well, what did he say? 25 suicides? I think this is treason. I think Well, there needs to be investigation, right? And if it is found that he had the mental capacity as a four-star general to be Secretary of Defense and know that what he was doing was absolutely wrong and it caused the murder of so many and the mental health deterioration of so many that they would commit suicide. I think that is absolutely treason against this country, because what that does is it devalues the trust for our country, and our friends are then no longer our friends. And so all of the work that ambassadors have done for years have been hindered, have been set back by this absolute disastrous withdrawal. And if it is deemed that he could have done things different and he didn't, and he chose not to, and then he said the other day that it was okay. No, then he's not even contrite. He's not even contrite about the damage that he did. This is where absolutely we need to put the death penalty back on the table, because this pollution is spreading, and it's stinky, and it's destroying, and it is choking, and it is poisoning, and it is killing. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not kill. And so when people are killing because it suits their means, their desires, their end game, their, let's say it's their business plan, that's called murder. And God doesn't allow for that. So let's hear from, I think there was another, let's see if it was up here. mm. Where is it? Maybe I didn't put it up on here. Maybe I put it somewhere else. But it was who is that? He used to be working for Moderna, I believe, a scientist. And I really wanted to play what he said, but he was saying that he is not, maybe it's above this. Yeah, I think it is above this. Is it? There's so much in the news, y'all. People post things on this too, but it's never a dull moment. Anyway, what is his? I know it begins with a Y, but I think he's a scientist, and he was saying he was never for the death penalty. And now, because of what has happened, and so many are being killed, and this toxin, this pollution is being allowed to spread, being it the weaponization of our government, being real toxins, being a social toxin. He said that he absolutely has revisited the death penalty, because it needs to stop. It needs to stop. And so, Bill Hicks, this is a good message for you. Same thing with Jaime Esparza. Because if not only if our investigation It has been totally botched, y'all. It's been totally botched. And if it wasn't for Team Find Richard Halliday, we wouldn't have this information. They would have hid it. They would have buried it. More children would have been hurt. We wouldn't hold them accountable. Getting this out every day and them having to work hard to hide everything and to suppress Find Richard Halliday in itself has been, let's say, keeping them on their toes. Restraining some evil against our service members because they retaliated needlessly. I have from Captain Park that I wrote that down too. There was so much information since I'm doing the timeline, redoing it. And we found another phone number, another person from the 12th of September 2018. But yeah, wow. That maybe we need to call. Absolutely. What did I put on there? But I know that it was May. I think it was like the 3rd of May that Captain Park submitted a form that Richard would turn in his TA-50. That is the beginning of May of 2020. Richard should turn in his TA-50 because before even that whole border thing, they were already chaptering him, y'all. For underage drinking, he had one counseling slip for 0.04 BAC. And when I said, what? I don't understand this. How did he get a permanent GOMAR for that? I don't understand. It was so insulting to us. Tell us what he really did. And they have yet to tell us. What? He turned in a child protective service complaint that seems to involve. I mean, you have a Major General Clem Coward giving Richard a permanent GOMAR, starting to chapter him out of the military for underage drinking, 0.04 BAC. That's ludicrous. So what was it? We know that Richard went over and above the chain of command to put in child protective service complaints. And he turned in sex videos. Who's in those sex videos? Why were videos tampered with? Why were videos destroyed? Taken. But they can't be because the way Richard got those videos is through the airdropping, is through the phones. So it's in the cloud. Absolutely. I think that Major General Clem Coward has a lot of explaining to do. And not through vile and vulgar messages that are burner phones. You don't introduce yourself. You don't say who you are. No courage. I think he needs to absolutely explain himself. And I'm thinking that maybe he was there when we were there. I'm trying to figure out that whole thing. It's like a soup sandwich. It's a soup sandwich that you're trying to put together. That's how botched this whole investigation is and how they're trying to protect somebody. And it's not Richard, because where's Richard? I really wish I could find that. Let's look at Cruz some more.
What I'm holding in my hand are the wristbands that just about everyone who crosses wears. These wristbands have different colors.
This is
They
at
correspond
the border,
to how
y'all.
many thousands of dollars the
El
illegal immigrants owe
Paso
the
is the
cartels.
Siamese sister
Each color
city
reflects how much
of
debt
Juarez,
they're in.
Mexico.
Don't think of these as pieces of plastic. Think of these as leg irons worn by slaves. So when the kids get here, the teenage boys, the Biden administration will transport to cities all over the country. You might think if you don't live on the border, you're not in a border city. You'd be mistaken. Whatever city you're in, the Biden administration is sending teenagers who owe Mexican drug cartels thousands of dollars. And they have to pay off that money or their families will be killed. And so these illegal immigrants are working for the cartels in cities all across America. And the boys have it a lot better than the girls, because far too many of the teenage girls find themselves trapped in sex slavery instead, to pay off their debt to the cartel.
Where is Gregory
This
McDonald?
wristband in particular
where is he?
is chilling because it is obviously the size of a child's hand. I don't know how old the child was that was wearing this wristband.
And where is Veronica Escobar?
But it hasn't been broken, so
Veronica Escobar.
her hand or his hand was small enough to slip this off without even breaking it.
This off because it's so.
This chaos.
Veronica Escobar is going to have, and I'll tell you the time when I get it. She is going to have some kind of rally on Friday, March 31st. A town hall. I wish I lived close. March 31st, I would absolutely say, "Where's Richard Halliday? Where's Richard Halliday? Find Richard Halliday. Find." Do you remember that? I said, "Find Richard Halliday." I don't know how many times. And then our megaphone, we could record on it. That really saved my voice. But I was just screaming, "Find Richard Halliday." And, I love people that invent wonderful things. And a megaphone that records and then you can play it back is a great invention. Thank you so much, whoever that was. Praise God. And I would repeat that. At this town hall, or at least ask the question, raise my hand and say, please, Veronica, where's Richard? Where's Richard? Where is that third party? Yeah. What else here? There's so much information. I want to make sure that everyone knows that for the 1,000 days, we need those 1,000 letters written to Mr. Horowitz, who is the Inspector General. He's the top man of inspection in this country. He needs to inspect the investigation of Find Richard Halliday, because where's Richard? And then also think about our service members, pray for our service members, and if you are a service member, I have a huge favor, because we need divine intervention. And I know that God's hand has been on this since, oh my gosh, the beginning, getting that father-in-law to do what he did in Dollar General, and then us giving us the symbol to find him, the key to find him, and him to be able to call him and him to answer, and him to reveal who he is, and he's not just some guy. He's the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM Richard's command. And that didn't inspire the AG. That didn't inspire McDonald or who's this other guy, Bill Hicks, to help us. Something's going on, y'all. And we need our service members. And if you live there where Richard lived, if you live in that same barracks, Delta Battery 143, if you can go to his room, if you can go outside his room, if you can go outside his barracks, if you can go to that area, maybe you can get into that room. Maybe you are in his room. If you can plead to God to help find Richard, to get information, we still have, and this is by the kindness of some very mostly veteran-owned businessmen from the CID and from us, Find Richard Halliday, Team Find Richard Halliday, we still have a $150,000 reward for information that leads to finding Richard. And God will, if you just ask, God says, seek and you shall find. Come close to me and I will come close to you. And I think that absolutely we will be blessed by that. And I think our souls, our spirits will be blessed by that. Because, confession is the cure of souls. So to repent, to confess, to change your way, to stop participating in the Vanity Fair and get on that beautiful, golden, narrow way is a huge, huge blessing. The way to freedom and liberty and things that our eyes can't see, our ears can't hear, our mind can't even perceive the magnitude of the beauty and the glory and the blessings that God has prepared for those who love him. So if you are a service member or if you have access to the barracks, Delta Battery 143, if you know what room Richard was in, if you know just that whole area, the command tried to stop Sammy from showing everybody that area. So if you do have access, can you take a minute and say a prayer for Richard? Say a prayer for Richard and add our service members, our military, our country, those children that are in the emergency intake center. For our children now, I heard today that even Mealy is going to stop the grooming in our libraries on post. I hope he does that. Because you can't have grooming in the military. This sexual grooming. You can't have it, no matter where. Because, see, people want all the blessings of this world, but without the responsibility. And it doesn't work that way. God gave us the 10 Commandments for a reason. He gave us the Bible. Every word that proceeds from the mouth of God is law. He gave that to us to study, to chew on. That's why we have the Lord's Supper. We chew on it. We take him in. We are the temple. And We have to meditate on it, and we have to then establish it. And that is a great responsibility. But with that great responsibility comes so much blessing that we can't even see it or hear it or perceive it until it happens. And then we're like, Sunday was a great sermon. And he said, because we just had the Annunciation, and the Annunciation is about this great miracle. A virgin becomes pregnant with God, right? God is being made flesh in this virgin. And people go, what? How can that happen? And our priest, he was so good. He goes, when these odd miracles show up, people just go crazy, and they're like, how could that happen? That must be magic or some kind of trick or something. But we are surrounded by miracles every day, all day long. Every day, all day long. We are surrounded by miracles. I know it from my garden. I have to take a picture. In the fall, I planted lettuce seed and spinach seed and carrots, and I have these beautiful plants right now. We've been eating spinach and salad, and I haven't pulled my carrots yet, and I planted some other things now. I had a radish. That was all like a miracle. Then, my grandbabies are such a miracle. They're such a miracle. We are surrounded by miracles every day, all day long. And that was our sermon. It was very powerful. And I hope it just blessed you too. So I'll take questions now. I know I'm not done with saying everything that I wanted to get across, but I really need I don't know. I would really love to hear back from Senator Cruz and say, we are going to make an Army CID training exercise there at Fort Bliss. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine how many hearts would jump and leap for joy at those words? I know a lot of them. Yeah. Okay. So here we are. I'm going to turn this down. Okay, Fox. I have so much to watch. Yeah. I have botched investigation day 979. Absolutely. Danielle, thank you. Richard Halliday was the first person to be placed on Vanessa Guillen's absent soldier flow chart. Yes, he was. Designated first CONUS S1 missing soldier placed on Vanessa Guillen's absent soldier flow chart. Yep. Praying for more answers. Help justice for find Richard Halliday. Maybe they will have it on Zoom for public. Yeah. Town hall meeting. Absolutely. That would be awesome. And maybe there will be inspired people in El Paso that will go and say, where's Richard? Where's Richard? You don't even have to say Halliday anymore. Just, where's Richard? That would be great. Absolutely. Yep. So thank you, Anicia. Thank you for your prayers. And thank you, Danielle, and all the people that have been, sending me all kinds of wonderful, wonderful messages. You can tell that things have changed because I do have some media now. I have an appointment for, I don't even know exactly which media this is. So I'll let you know. It's just been such a busy time. We decided on a time and a date. And so, and then all the well wishes and the people willing to help, and then all this information coming through about Fort Bliss police, Leilani Hart having control over CID. What is that? That is, yeah, that needs to be answered. And of course, all the other requests that we have, all the other questions that we have, all of our FOIAs that we have, they all need to be answered. And then we could find Richard. But there is a covering up, y'all. And it's huge. It's huge because it involves, and let me see if I can get the map, because I think the map needs to be showed almost every time. Because I'm discovering all this other stuff going on. Let's see if I have it. Uh-oh. My computer doesn't want to work. It's loading. Too much going on here. So absolutely the whole map going into Juarez to these orphanages, and then we have 20,000 missing children. You know, it's not odd for us to say, what's going on? You have all these orphanages and child shelters on the other side of the border, but we have 20,000 unaccompanied children that we've just released out of the emergency intake center at Fort Bliss, and it's easy to get through. And are they using the horse trailers? And who's involved in all of this? And where are they? Who's getting the money? Who's getting the money? And are they sexually exploiting these children? Are they sexually trafficking these children? Are they creating these porn videos? Any porn video is supporting child sex trafficking. Okay? And just getting the grooming out of the libraries on post is one step. So we have a long way to go, because there's no place for these sex cult doggies where they target our volunteer sons and daughters, they target our children, and they want to rear them, right? And they want to be up to no good. It's just, it's not acceptable. And it's worth doing this day in and day out to make people aware, so that they could write a letter, maybe 2 letters, maybe 3 letters, maybe 10 letters. Make a letter and get all your neighbors together, every neighbor in your neighborhood, to write a letter to Inspector General Mr. Horowitz, and of course the address is right there, and ask, where's Richard? And inspect the investigation, the botched investigation of Find Richard Halliday, right? So, yeah, I've given all kinds of information out there. If you want more, please give me a call, 941-677-0060, and let's make this happen so that we can find Richard, because we're so close. We're so close. We just need law enforcement to do their job. And there's several of them, and let's see if they want to keep their job. Okay? There's not one that's good, not one, right? Isn't that what God says? Not one of us is good except for God alone. Not one. We all have to be restrained. We all have to be held accountable. We all have to be responsible. We all have to conduct ourselves with self-government, right? Because there's not one of us that's good, not one. except for God alone. And that's why we need to be under God. Under God's every word. And that's why we're the one and the many. The Trinity. The Trinity is the only answer to how we could work together as a society to help the many and to help the one like Richard. The many like the 20,000. All of us. It's the Trinity. The Spirit, the atonement, and the law word. So, yeah, thank you so much. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow. I know I got cut off yesterday. I'll be back tomorrow, God willing. And ask yourself, ask everybody around you, where's Richard? God bless you.